Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 21, vulnerable or struggling readers. We're going to have a little bit of a focus on these children in our classroom. So here we go. Found my mouse, off we go. So vulnerable and struggling readers. So how can we support those readers who need a lot of individual and individualized attention? Remember with when we looked at joyful literacy, that resource by Dr. Janet Mort, she talked about tier 1 students, that's 70% of our children who basically will learn how to read in a really intentional, well-structured reading program. Then there's those tier 2 and tier 3 kids, which is about 30% of our kids. So what happens when you've done great plans, you have a great schedule, you've done all these cool instructional strategies, you've brought in neat materials, you've tried to use all sorts of activities, you've used extra dosages around the concept of joyful literacy, and you're looking at refining your assessment so that you know exactly where your students are at, but you still have these students who struggle to learn how to read. That's what we're going to look at. Those tier 2 edging into tier 3 students who just really struggle with learning how to read. Okay, so basically what you want to be doing is thinking about these things. So also I want you to be thinking about what you're seeing in your practicum around these 6 points. What are you seeing in your literacy practicum that your teacher is doing to helping these struggling readers? And I know that your teachers are doing some of these things. They might be doing different things, but I want you to let your brain spin and jot down some ideas that you are seeing out there in practicum, and we'll discuss them and collaborate. Okay, so basically you want to do as much as you can in class time to help your struggling readers. Oftentimes we think, oh, well, they may, if they're struggling, then they need to be pulled out, they need to have specialized attention. Sometimes, yes, sometimes that's actually really crucial to help a student, but oftentimes then think about, okay, so that child gets pulled out of your class time, they're missing your class time. So they come back in, and now they're really confused because they don't know what is happening. Maybe they get pulled out during your social studies time. Now they're really confused because they're like, what are they talking about? And then they get farther and farther behind. So try to keep those kids in your class as much as possible and present them with a robust reading program. That's the best way to help our struggling readers. Number 2, I think we often need to just shift our mindset a little bit. So instead of asking, well, what's wrong with Jeremy? Why can't Jeremy read? We need to ask, what does Jeremy need to learn in order to continue his development as a reader? And what can I do to support that development? So being, again, really laser focused. What does Jeremy need? Does Jeremy need to work on his phonemes? Does Jeremy need to work on vocab? Does Jeremy need to work on comprehension? And then specifically, what does that look like? And then shift your mindset from, well, why can't he read? To, okay, where is this really specific problem? And then what can I do as a teacher, or what supports can I pull in for Jeremy? Okay, number 3, offer instruction in multiple modes and media. There's just so much text, right? There's just so much written text and so much oral communication that maybe sometimes these kids who are struggling just need the information in a different format. So things like multimedia, visuals, websites. Maybe taking them out on field trips or community classrooms, bringing in guest speakers so that they hear somebody else other than you, even though you are lovely. Sometimes it's nice for them to hear a different viewpoint. Maybe you have a parent volunteer come in and work, again, one-on-one with that child in the classroom. Maybe you bring in lots of picture books. If you're with grade 6 students, you bring in lots of really cool picture books, graphic novels, things like that. Bring in lots of YouTube clips. Have more discussions. Let them actually listen to books, audiobooks. Again, think about how you can offer instruction in multiple modes and media in order, again, to support that particular child in where he or she needs it exactly. Not sort of generically, but exactly. Okay, number 4, increase literacy time. So this is a bit of a throwback to our talk about joyful literacy. That whole resource is that this is an increase in time that is explicit instruction on decoding, on learning sight words and comprehension. So this is, again, not just, generic time, but really explicit time. And this comes through daily targeted instruction and not sort of short blocks sporadically throughout the week, but really, really targeted instruction, either as a whole class, you can be targeting things, but particularly for these struggling readers, we want to target. We want to target and give them more explicit instruction, and we want to give them more dosages. So again, a throwback to that joyful literacy resource. Sorry. The idea of dosages, again, as a review, it's like going to the doctor and getting a different dosage for each person, is the basis of that particular program. Sometimes struggling readers, they need like 30 or 40 dosages of a concept, whereas other kids may need 7 or 10. And so if you give them increased literacy time, and you go at them and at them and at them and at them with all of those games and songs and kinesthetic response to the concepts around reading, then they get them the amount of dosages that they need to actually be able to read. Okay, number 5, avoid isolated concepts. So oftentimes we'll give our struggling readers more worksheets on the k sound. But what happens is they don't ever then see the k sound anywhere else. And so what's going to happen if they're struggling already with reading? Are they going to then suddenly go, oh, these concepts that I've been working on in this worksheet, 3 days later, that's what that is in the story. No. Avoid isolated worksheets or exercises that are not connected directly to the literature that you're working on. Okay, so they need to, if you're going to have them work on k sound, then you've got to do a book right away with the whole class where there's lots of k sounds, or you do it in reading and conference time. Okay, so that's what I mean by avoid isolated concepts. And number 6, you want to match materials and learners with text. So match materials, instructional context, and learners so that they can learn how to read independently, and it's related to the actual instructional content. So you're actually matching materials with what you're actually doing in class in order then for them to become independent readers. So oftentimes, if learner spends too much time with a book, so say you're reading a book in class that is way, way above them, they're going to get frustrated because they can't read the book. And especially for older readers who are reading at a lower grade level, be aware that they really don't want to be caught reading a kid's book. So if you have a grade 6 student who's reading at a grade 2 or 3 level, they don't want to be reading Duck, Duck, Goose, right? They want to be reading books that look like they are at a grade 6 level. And so that's where there are lots of cool series that are being developed for this particular reason. And one of them is one of my favorite, is called the Orca Books, and it is a Canadian publisher out of Vancouver. And basically, here it is. So there's reading levels, grades 2 to 4.5. Interest level, though, are ages 10 and up. So you have a 10-year-old who's maybe reading at a grade 2 level, but they're reading this kind of a book like that. It just looks cool. And it's actually about motorbiking and things like that, which actually may be, or playing rugby, which actually may be more interesting to a grade 6 student. So this is an excellent series if you have students in your class, especially in your upper levels like 4, 5, and 6, who don't want to read little baby books because they see it as baby books, but these are actually written at different reading levels. And we have actually quite a few of these in our MHC library. So you can, I think if you look up Orca Books as the publisher, I think you'll find them. But it's a really great series to again match those materials and learners together so that they really actually want to read, because ultimately our struggling readers, we need to encourage them to read as much as possible, because the more they read, the better they get. The less they read, their reading skills actually then stagnate. Okay. If, however, you go, okay, I have tried all these things. I've created different lessons. I brought in multimedia. I have worked one-on-one. I've worked in groups. I've targeted my teaching to the particular. I know where this child is at. I know what they need. I put books in their hands that are great books and leveled, and this child still is not learning to read. Then this is what you go to. Then you intervene early. You get in there. You don't let the child go until May. If you go, okay, this child is struggling and it's November, you intervene now. You get in there. You involve all supports. You involve maybe the teacher from the year before and say, okay, what's going on with this child? You involve administration. You involve parents. Okay? And because this is crucial, especially in those K to 3 years, if the child is not reading at grade level by grade 3, unfortunately, research has shown that they will be behind their entire schooling career. And that's not what we want. We want them to be reading at grade level by grade 3. Okay, so evaluate the interventions. Okay, so say you're going, okay, I need to bring in the speech pathologist. I need to maybe bring in the psychologist or the psychiatrist. I need to bring in these professionals, so kind of 3 and 4 go together, but you know the child the best. So even if you're a new teacher, sometimes it's a little intimidating to be like, okay, speech pathologist who's been doing this for 20 years, this is what I think the child needs. But you know the child best. Advocate for that child. Say, this is what I believe is the problem. Because what happens is your speech pathologist, even though he or she may be amazing, they only see that child for maybe half an hour every couple weeks. You're with that child all the time. So evaluate the interventions, but do utilize those professionals, because they are professionals. But don't just say, oh, you're the speech pathologist. Okay, go take my child and work wonders. No, you say, okay, this is where this child is struggling. In phonemic awareness, they don't understand the concepts of vowels, and they don't understand blending and those kind of things. Be really specific. The speech pathologist will love you, because then they have a better basis to jump off of. Okay, and number 5, continue to provide a rich literacy classroom experience. So just because this child, again, is maybe being pulled out, maybe there are being particular interventions going on with this child, still work really hard at doing all the things. Planning, bringing multimodal lessons, connecting with the child one-on-one or in a small group, laser focused, know where they're at, put great books in their hands. And between all of these things, hopefully this will support that child in their reading career. Okay, so that's just a quick snippet. We will go more into that, into struggling readers and vulnerable readers in 3103, but that hopefully just gets you thinking. Again, be ready to talk a little bit about what you're seeing out there in your practicum and how your teacher is supporting struggling readers. Okay, so this is what we're going to do in Collaborate. So this is our assignment to debrief. So this is your debrief from your lesson planning, and a little bit of a debrief from your e-portfolio, and really kind of your practicum experience, even though you're not done it, but a little bit of a debrief about what's going on out there. So you're going to have about 10 minutes with one partner, and you're going to do this twice. So you'll talk to 2 people and collaborate. I want you to talk about your e-portfolio link. So I want you to actually be able to share your e-portfolio link with your partners. So either figure out how to put that screen share or put it in comments, those kind of things. So have your link available. And I want you to kind of just go through your link with your partner and show, don't like read it to them, but say, hey, this is what I'm really super proud of on here, and this is what I this is what I found really amazing from my practicum. And then I want you to talk to your partner about what you learned about teaching literacy and what you learned about planning and implementing plans in literacy. So you'll talk with one partner about that for about 10, 12 minutes. We'll see how that goes. And then you'll switch partners and you'll do the same thing twice. So I don't want you to prep a lot, but I do want you to be ready to discuss in detail the two questions here. What did you learn, and what did you learn about teaching, and what did you learn about planning, as well as kind of know where you want to go in your e-portfolio. Don't fumble around and be like, oh, I don't know where I want to go. Like have some key areas. You don't have to go through the whole e-portfolio, but have a couple key areas. So that's your job for Collaborate, for planning for Collaborate, which is why this lecture is a little bit shorter, because I want you to spend a little bit more time actually planning this. And we will do this also in Collaborate. I want you to share your words of wisdom. So what you wished you had known, let's try that, I'll fix that, known about teaching literacy before you went out on practicum. Of course, we as your education instructors would love to impart all of the knowledge that you need to know about teaching before you go out on practicum, but we can't, so you have to kind of get everything as you journey through. So would it kind of like go from really sort of practical things like, wow, it takes grade 2s a long time to glue, or like Jackson, your comment about, wow, kindergarten kids really don't tell very good jokes, to all the way up to like philosophical ideas about teaching. And again, be ready to share in Collaborate. And this is just when I could teach my students in S103, this is they came up to the board and they just wrote some words of wisdom on there. So I'll leave that with you to kind of look through. No cutting and pasting on worksheets, make on worksheets literacies in all subjects. So again, you have some big ideas, be creative, and then some really specific cutting and pasting on worksheets is very time consuming and not very fulfilling for outcomes. Okay, so that's your job for Collaborate for when we meet, and hopefully that gives you a little bit of a chance to think about struggling readers and sort of your overall practicum experience as a whole. All right, take care.